Welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart podcast. Each week, we interview the best and brightest in physical therapy, wellness, and entrepreneurship. We give you cutting-edge information you need to live your best life, healthy, wealthy, and smart. The information in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be used as personalized medical advice. And now, here's your host, Dr. Karen Litzy.
Everybody, welcome back to the podcast. I am your host, Karen Litzy, and today's episode is brought to you by Net Health. So Net Health is talking about something important, patients and their outcomes, specifically how great it is when your whole practice is rallied around a solid outcomes management program. And because of that, they, along with FOTO, which is Focus on Therapeutic Outcomes, are hosting the Clinical Outcomes Summit October 23rd through the 25th in Knoxville, Tennessee. Rehab therapy pros from hospitals and private practices are gathering to celebrate, examine, and define outcomes management. And Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart podcast listeners get a steep discount on the registration. The full summit pass is only $150. At that rate, go ahead and bring your entire team. Go to www.outcomesnerd.com and use the discount code Litzy. So hopefully we'll see you in Knoxville. Now, on to today's episode. I know you could probably tell by the title, like, what is happening here. But on this episode, I welcome Laurie Seely. She's a functional medicine health coach, a lover of young living essential oils, and mom to a beautiful little girl, and a professional opera singer, formerly in the chorus at the Lyric Opera of Chicago. She suffered for years with IBS and all the horrible, embarrassing symptoms that came along with it, including a raging Candida yeast overgrowth. With help from her health coach and the School of Applied Functional Medicine, she learned how to kill Candida and repair her gut. She is a health detective. Now she teaches people how to kill Candida and repair their gut through workshops, group programs, and one-on-one coaching. Many of her clients find surprising side effects such as extra energy, clearer skin, fewer wrinkles, better digestion, less need for medications, lower blood sugar, and clearer thinking. So in this episode, yes, we're talking about your poop, what it means, what it can signal, and what you need to do about it. So in this episode, we discuss the number one question you should be asking your doctor at your next checkup, how you can assess the health of your stool, her simple solutions to improve gut health, and Laurie's long journey to overcome Candida. So everyone, thanks so much for listening, and hopefully next time you go to the doctor, you will ask them Laurie's number one question. Hey, Laurie, welcome to the podcast. I am happy to have you on.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Karen.
Of course, and as we were talking about before we got on the air, the way that we were introduced to each other was through Christine Gallagher, who's a really wonderful business coach, and she was part of my Women in PT Summit in our inaugural summit a couple of years ago. And so I just want to give a quick shout out to Christine for the hookup here.
Woohoo, Christine.
Yeah, she's great. So now, obviously, in your bio, I talked about the fact that you're a functional medicine health coach, but I have a feeling a lot of people aren't exactly sure what that is or what that means. So would you mind giving the listeners a little bit of background onto what that is exactly?
Okay, so I got a certification as a health coach, and then I continued at the School for Applied Functional Medicine. And they offer another certification, and basically that's where I learned all my stuff. You learn about just really how to be a health detective, because there are so many symptoms of dis-ease that a lot of doctors will label as an illness. And I was very interested in this kind of, it's not really medicine, but I was very interested in this kind of health detective work, because I went through this whole thing myself with IBS and Candida, and I still had a couple of pieces left to really, really find health for myself. And it was at this school that I finally put in the last couple pieces to make that happen. And in the process, I became a functional medicine health coach. Isn't that cool?
Excellent.
Yeah, and now I help other people that had the same sort of problems that I once had.
Yeah, and I feel like oftentimes that's kind of the way life takes us, right? We kind of have these experiences and we figure them out for ourselves, and then we try and delve a little bit deeper to widen the net and then help others. So I think it's great when you can kind of make that change. But a question, what were you doing before you were a health coach?
Well, I was an opera singer, actually. I was singing full time in the chorus at the Lyric Opera of Chicago, which was really, really fun. And actually, I just recently quit there. I was doing both at the same time for a while, which was a really difficult juggle.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is where my heart lies and my passion now. So yeah, I was an opera singer.
Oh, that's very what a career switch.
It's
I
very
love
different.
Yeah, I love talking to people who have had different careers within their life, because I always think like it gives people hope, you know? So if you're not doing exactly what you love right now, that there's hope. You may find that thing that kind of, like you said, gives you your passion.
Right, yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So now let's talk about the health coaching aspect of things. So let's say I'm one of your clients. I come to you and I've already been to my doctor, or maybe I'm going to see my doctor. So what are some important questions that maybe doctors should be asking us?
That they're not, maybe?
That maybe they're not delving into as much.
So I think that the number one most important question a doctor can ask you is, what does your poop look like? And specifically that, what does it look like? And how often do you poop? Because that is your body's way of telling you when there's something wrong. I learned at functional medicine school that most dis-ease begins in the gut. We don't say all because we just want to, 99.9% of disease begins in the gut, I would say, right? And that's your first indication. That's your body telling you, hey, there's something wrong, And so we need to be educated on our part, what poop should look like, right? And I feel like this should be like on the commercials on TV instead of like, what pharmaceutical drug can help you with your IBS. They should be telling us what our poop should look like, so it doesn't have to go all the way to IBS. We can see right at the beginning, what, I'm pooping little marbles. Like that was my problem for most of my life, little marbles with occasional bouts of diarrhea. And I went for close to 40 years not knowing that there was anything wrong. If one doctor had asked me what my poop looked like when I was, say, 12 years old, and I was old enough to kind of tell him, well, about 9 times a day I'm pooping little balls, he'd be like, wow, there's something wrong with you. We need to figure out what it is. And I feel like there's so many people who are in the same boat. It never would have gotten to Candida for me. I had a yeast infection for a year every single day. And if somebody had asked me at 12 years old, what does my poop look like? I feel like it never would have gotten that bad. And I feel like there's so many other people in this world who are in the same boat, and who are maybe at some sort of state of disease that really could have been kind of nipped in the bud years and years ago when it was much less.
Yeah. And so if we're going there, right? We're going to talk about poop right now. We're in it. We're doing it.
If you have a conversation with me long enough, it'll eventually go there.
Yes. So this is it. Now, obviously a very good question that your doctor should be asking. But now if people listening to this, next time they go to their doctor, they can bring this up, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to be very clear, because even doctors can mess up with this. There was one chiropractor that I was at who asked, we get treated in the same room, a bunch of us, and there was another client there getting treated at the same time, and she was making comments that kind of made the chiropractor and me kind of go to, sounds like you're constipated, but we didn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked her, how's your digestion? And she was like, oh, it's fine. And then he left the room and I said, what does your poop look like? How many times do you poop a day? And she said, oh, I'm pooping like once every 10 days.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I was like, wow. Like I didn't want to alarm her, but I sort of explained, that it shouldn't be that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. When you talk to your doctor, like get gross, get like in it, tell them what it looks like, what it feels like, the texture, the smell, how long it takes to pass, because they need to know all of those things.
Okay, so let's talk about what it should look like.
Yes.
So there is a chart called the Bristol stool chart. The
Mm-hmm.
Bristol stool chart. So
Right.
Can you tell us what it is and what it should look like?
So on the chart, it goes from number 1 to number 7. So number 1 is constipation, and that's the tiny little balls.
Mm-hmm.
Number 7 is diarrhea. That's watery stools.
Mm-hmm.
And number 4 is nirvana poo. It's like exactly what it's supposed to be like. It's like soft serve ice cream texture. And it's not going to smell very much. It's going to be light brown in texture, easy to pass. We're talking 1 or 2 minutes and it's all gone, all
Mm-hmm.
out. And it leaves almost nothing to wipe.
Mm.
So that's the good stuff. And then they have, the different levels in between 1, 4, and 7 also. So you can Google that. There's like great illustrations online.
And so obviously if you're at a 1 or a 7, we pretty much know something's up, right?
Yeah.
So 4 is perfect. What if you're a 3 or a 5? I mean, are these things to be worried about?
I don't think so. If you're at a 3 or a 5, it's probably not your norm, if that makes sense. Like you want to look at where is it usually, right? What is your pattern?
Mm-hmm.
If you have if you have a couple days with a little bit of stress and suddenly you're pooping tiny little balls, but then you get back to a number 4 after that, you're good. It was the stress. You got over it, right? Do a little yoga, some deep breathing. You'll be fine. The same thing happens with diarrhea. A lot of people get stress diarrhea. So if that's a temporary thing and it's due to stress, that's temporary, then you're fine. If it's happening all the time, then you need to know that, yeah, it's a problem and you need to do some detective work there. And that's time to do a stool test or to do any number of blood tests for parasites and stuff like that. So that's time when you want to find out what's causing it. A lot of times, okay, so I went to my gastroenterologist. I said, I have IBS. I'm constipated all the time. Sometimes I have diarrhea. I told her the whole story, and she said, we don't know what causes IBS. So that's another indication that you need a new doctor. So that's what I did. Got a new doctor. Mm-hmm. Because there are so many things that cause IBS, and that's time to just find yourself a health detective and figure it out. There's a great test from the Meridian Valley Lab called a comprehensive stool analysis and parasitology × 3. So that will tell you all of the expected beneficial flora that you want in there. It'll measure imbalanced flora, any flora that's dysbiotic or like crazy out of balance. Mm-hmm. So you know exactly really what's supposed to be there. It's also going to measure how much yeast you have in there, because everybody pretty much has yeast in their digestive tract. It's just when it gets overgrown that it's bad. Mm-hmm. And then it also measures like mucus and then it checks for parasites, and it's a 3-day test. So if you find a doctor, they give you a stool test and it's just from one bowel movement, that's not a good enough test. If it finds something cool, then you got lucky. But it's good to test over the period of at least 3 days. There are some stool tests that go up to 6 days. Mm-hmm. So the reason for that is that the bacteria and the parasites and the Candida, it all travels in groups, like in clumps. They like to stick together like a school of fish, right? And from one bowel movement, you could be full of parasites, and in one bowel movement, you pass a whole bunch that doesn't have any parasites in it because they were hanging out somewhere else in your colon. So that's why you want to test over 3 days. So then you have a pretty good chance that if there's any parasites in there, you've found them.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And now, let's say you do this test and something is positive.
Yeah.
Where do you go from there?
Well, there's a lot of things you can do about that. It depends on your doctor. They might give you a pharmaceutical anti-parasitic drug to take, which can be effective, and there's a possibility that it's not effective as well. You always want to retest. What I do with my clients is I use a product from Young Living Essential Oils. It's the best thing that I've found so far, the most effective. And it's called Parafree. And it's full of various essential oils and also other ingredients that are known to support intestinal health. I can't say that they're known to kill things because it hasn't been approved by the FDA, but I've seen in my practice and in my own body and in my mother's body that it clears up parasites.
So let's say you do this comprehensive stool analysis and you find something, it's treated either by your physician with a pharmaceutical or through the essential oils. But I guess it's probably important to note that with the essential oils that, like you said, they're not FDA approved and they're not studied or tested, correct? It's just more like anecdotal stuff.
Yeah, there are many case studies, and actually it seems like from the case studies that the Parafree is actually more useful.
Yeah. Well, it would probably behoove someone to do to do some research on that, because it's hard to I think get buy-in from a lot of people when something isn't well researched. That's the word. I was going to say tested, but researched is probably better. Probably a better way to put that. So, hopefully someone will do that to help people make a better decision.
Right. Well, here's the thing. The reason why they're not FDA approved is not because the FDA looked into it and disapproved them. It's because the FDA doesn't want to waste their time on something that can't be patented. Because they're natural ingredients in there. It's not synthetic versions of natural ingredients. It's the actual natural ingredient. And so those things can't be patented, and they can't, companies can't make money off of that. And so the FDA doesn't want to use their funding on that.
Right. Yeah. Well, hopefully someone can do like a nice comparative study between that and a pharmaceutical and see what works and what doesn't. I think that would be.
Yeah. I think part of the problem. Yeah. I think part of the issue is that pharmaceuticals are usually aimed at just one thing. And the Parafree has been useful in treating a wide range of parasites. It's like throwing a huge blanket on it and you kill them all.
Right.
So, yeah, but you're right. It would be nice if it were more widely publicized.
Yeah. I agree. All right. Now, let's say we talked about this a little bit. Let's say you're on the 1 of the Bristol stool chart, which means that you're constipated and which everyone at some point in their life has been, and we know it's not comfortable. So how can we relieve this? On that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with Laurie's answer.
Let's talk about something important. Patients and their outcomes. If you love to nerd out on this kind of talk like I do, the best industry event around outcomes management is happening from October 23rd to the 25th, and it's the Clinical Outcomes Summit. It's hosted by Photo, but it's not just for Photo clients. It's a gathering of everyone who believes in the power of outcomes management to drive change for patients, clinicians, practices, and payers. And the best part, Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart podcast listeners get a steep discount on the registration. The full summit pass is only $150. At that rate, go ahead and bring your entire team. Go to www.outcomesnerd.com and use the discount code Litzy. That's Litzy. Hope to see you there.
So there's a couple different ways. It depends what's causing it. So before doing a stool test, I would try what I'm going to tell you now. I would first look at how much water are you drinking every day.
Mm-hmm.
So the rule of thumb for how much water you should be drinking is you see how many pounds you weigh, divide that by 2, and that's how many ounces of water you should be drinking every day. So if you weigh 140, you should be drinking at least 70 ounces of water per day.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of people who are already doing that, but there are also a lot of people for whom that would be quite a bit of water.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what we need to be doing, because the number 1 on the Bristol stool chart is an indication that your stool is dehydrated. And your stool may be dehydrated because you're not drinking enough water. It's possible that the muscles along your colon are functioning absolutely properly, and that you're just moving along slowly because there's not enough water in your stool. So that's the simplest fix, right? And then also, if you do that and you find that it doesn't fix it or it improves it, but now you're back where you were and you're still drinking more water, another thing to do is consider that maybe you don't have enough magnesium intake.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of us don't have enough magnesium just because we're not getting it anymore from the fruits and vegetables because of modern day farming practices. It's not in the soil. So if it's not in the soil, it can't be in the vegetables. And that's where we're supposed to be getting our magnesium from.
Mm-hmm.
So we use supplements. So there's the form of magnesium that helps to stimulate the bowels is called magnesium citrate. And so you try taking some magnesium citrate, and there's a very easy way to figure out how much of that you need. You want to get the powdered version because it's easier to lower or raise your intake, right? Than like by taking a capsule. And so you start with half a teaspoon of magnesium citrate, and you do that for about 3 days because it takes a while for it to build up in our bodies. And if after about 3 days you're not moving along the way you want to be, then you raise it by another half teaspoon, and you just keep doing that in 3-day intervals like that until you're where you want to be. And it's possible that you might go a little too far and have diarrhea, and then you know for sure that half a teaspoon less than that is what you need.
So it's a little bit of trial and error there, but I get it.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, that if you're trying to do things naturally, that's how it is.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we've got lack of water, lack of magnesium. Anything else that can contribute?
Well, we always say we should have more fiber, right? And that could be part of it as well. So you want to make sure that you're eating enough vegetables. I never recommend a person to get their fiber from things like shredded wheat or bread or things like that. But that's what we see in the media, right? We see like, oh, have your high fiber bread and that's going to help you. Well, wheat actually can irritate the colon, whether you have a sensitivity to it or not, because of the way that it's being produced nowadays. It's a very common irritant. And so that could be, maybe you're eating bread and that's your problem, right? So if you feel like maybe it's a fiber issue, then the way to get fiber is through vegetables. And I'm talking about like spinach, kale, leafy greens.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So you want to start having more water, kind of eating a little bit healthier.
Yeah.
And things may even out for you. Okay, great. Is there anything else with constipation that we didn't go over about kind of how to relieve it or what might be causing it?
Well, those are the places that I would start. And if you don't make any headway there, then got to find yourself a health detective, I think.
All right, sounds good. Now, you made mention of this earlier, but and I know it's part of your history and kind of why you became a health coach, but talk a little bit about Candida and what it was like for you for 10 plus years.
So, so my whole life, this whole thing with my digestion just kept getting worse. I didn't even know that I had a problem. I was unaware of it. That's why I'm here, like educating people about it, bringing it into the light, right? And eventually I started having like 3 to 6 or more yeast infections every single year, which I also didn't know, but that's considered frequent for yeast infections.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, this was a little while after I had my daughter, my immune system just tanked, and so did my thyroid. And I had a yeast infection for every day for an entire year. I remember spending a week at Disney with an itch that I couldn't scratch. It was just horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I took the plunge. I was Googling the whole time. Like there's probably a good 10 years that I was like, why am I getting so many yeast infections? And I would Google that and it would come up as a Candida, a systemic Candida infection. I was like, no, it couldn't be that, because then I of course Googled the remedy for that. And it just seemed like so hard and such a problem to go through that I was like, no, it's gotta be something else. It can't be that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I finally admitted it, I mean, that was the first day of the rest of my life, and I started my journey to health.
So aside from having the recurrent and constant yeast infections, was there anything else that you noticed that maybe you ignored? And
Yes. Looking back, I started to have, when I wasn't constipated, I was having far more urgent diarrhea, which actually led to like public accidents. Very, very embarrassing. And I got some allergies that I had always had some allergies, but it was just so bad that I was seeing an allergist, and I was using Flonase and other steroid nasal sprays. And of course, that was just making my problem worse, because steroids actually kill gut bacteria, and that was the root of my problem. So, and then after the allergies, then more yeast infections. That was, I think, the allergies and the more frequent diarrhea that I didn't put it together. I didn't understand.
Yeah, that always seems to be the way, because especially when you're in it, it's kind of like hard to connect all those dots, right?
Yes.
Because you're just trying to take care of the symptoms.
I was constantly putting Band-Aids on symptoms, not realizing that they had a common cause. And sinus infections also. Yeast actually kind of likes to live in the warm, wet areas, and so sinuses are a really good place for them to take up shop. And I had that too, that problem too.
Gosh, what a way to go through life.
Yeah. And there's so many people who are really experiencing this all the time still, and also haven't connected the dots,
Well, hopefully you can raise a little bit more awareness for people and have them be a little more aware of how they poop.
Yes.
And what it looks like, and the consistency and the smell and all that stuff. So that hopefully we can, because what you put in your body's got to come out, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that we pay attention to what our body is doing, because like you said, our bodies are pretty good at telling us when things are wrong.
Yes.
And when things are out of homeostasis. And if checking your poop, that seems pretty easy to me.
Yeah.
So then you could say, this doesn't seem right. Maybe I should call my doctor about this.
Exactly. Yes.
Exactly.
We just have to pay attention.
Yes, we have to pay attention. I have one last question for you, and it's a question that I ask everyone. And that's, knowing where you are now in your life, in your career, what advice would you give to yourself, let's say, right out of school, or maybe in your case, when you first started getting into the opera world?
Advice that I wish I'd had.
Exactly.
Just keep trying, get used to hearing no. And because in the opera world, we deal with a lot of rejection. There's a lot of auditions, and you might get out of, 20 auditions, you might get one job. So I really would have liked to sort of hear that, to know that it was normal to have all these auditions and just get one job,
Yeah.
And but I have a very stick-to-itiveness sort of nature to me, and I rolled with it, Yeah.
Yeah, but gosh, I'm sure so many people have been in your boat many times over and would have loved to have had that advice. And now you have, which I'm very grateful for, something for the listeners. So what is it? What do you have as a freebie for people?
So I have a 7-step program that I use with my clients to help them get over Candida and repair their gut. And I have a blog post on my website that goes through those 7 steps, and it also has a very handy downloadable checklist that you can use as you're going through the program. So, and it also has a very nice a list of anti-Candida foods that are allowed and not allowed on the anti-Candida diet. That is very handy to print out and just hang in your kitchen so that you can check it every once in a while and see what kind of recipes you want to make for yourself, because when you're doing the anti-Candida diet, it can be very difficult and very depressing to try and figure out what there is that you can eat without feeding your Candida.
Right.
Yeah, so for anybody who sort of was thinking, oh, that might be me, I don't know, you can go to my website and check out that post. And there's so many other posts on there about IBS and Candida and food sensitivities and all that stuff. You can go down quite a wormhole on my website.
Perfect. And we'll have, just so people know, we'll have the link to that 7 steps to kill Candida checklist. We will have the link to that in the show notes over at podcast.healthywealthysmart.com. So you can one click and it'll take you there. And where can people find you?
I am at Laurie Seely.com, and I'm also on Facebook at Laurie Seely Functional Medicine Health Coach. And I also have a group on Facebook called Candida, IBS, and Heavy Metals Education Group.
Awesome. And again, we'll have all the links to that. So if you have questions, you want to get in touch with Laurie, you can pop over to her website. If you weren't writing all this down, you can go to the podcast website, click onto it, and it'll take you right there. So Laurie, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about poop, which is a first for me in the podcast. So,
oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad I could provide that for you.
It was a first, and hopefully people, no pun intended, got a lot out of this.
I hope so.
So Laurie, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It was a joy.
And everyone else, thanks so much for listening. Have a great couple of days and stay healthy, wealthy, and smart. And a big thank you to Laurie for a great discussion. And of course, thanks to our sponsor, Net Health. So Net Health is teaming up with Photo, which is focused on therapeutic outcomes, but it's not just for photo clients. It is a conference October 23rd to the 25th in Knoxville, Tennessee, called the Clinical Outcomes Summit. It's a gathering of everyone who believes in the power of outcomes management to drive change for patients, clinicians, practices, and payers. So you're going to hear from rehab therapy pros from hospitals and private practices, success stories, case studies from your peers about leveraging outcomes for deep patient engagement, thoughtful business practices, clinician education, optimizing revenue, and more. Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart podcast listeners get a steep discount. The full summit pass is only $150. So go to outcomesnerd.com and use the discount code Litzy.
Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to the podcast at podcast.healthywealthysmart.com. And don't forget to follow us on social media.